Good evening, everyone. For those of you in the participants forum, we're just waiting a couple of more minutes for some students to arrive, and then we'll start the presentation shortly. Okay, I think we're going to get things going. If any students join a bit later, we will, they can just ask some questions and we'll catch them up. So thank you everybody for joining us this evening. Again, in our Global Education Virtual Expo series. I'm not going to keep you too long because we've got quite an interesting webinar tonight. We've got the University of Central Lancashire that's presenting, and we've got a whole team, including some current students, one who actually went through global, so you get a full experience. And just before I pass over to the team and let them introduce themselves, just some housekeeping rules. Please, if you have any questions, ask them in the Q&A section. We'll do our best to answer them in the background, but definitely at the end, we're going to have a little bit of a Q&A session where you can ask as many questions as you like, and we'll stay on for as long as possible. So with that being said, obviously Global Education is your local agency. We do the entire application and visa process to these universities, obviously UCLan being one of them. So if you are interested in applying, all our details will be available at the end of the presentation. And obviously we will discuss how the whole process works once you contact us. So without further ado, Angeline, I'm going to pass over to you so you can introduce your team and we can get the ball rolling.
Thank you very much, Nico, and thank you, Global Education, for inviting us. It is wonderful to join today. And my name is Angeline Ward. I'm the Regional Manager for Sub-Saharan Africa. And I'm joined today by colleagues from the academic staff and students as well. And my colleague, Leah, who looks after East and Southern Africa. So I'll ask Leah to introduce herself and then hand over to, and then the others. So Leah, you first.
Good evening, all. My name is Leah Lusweti. I'm UCLan International Officer for East and Southern Africa. Most welcome.
Okay, Colin, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Colin Mickey. I'm the Deputy Lead for Students and Teaching at the School of Medicine in Preston at the University of Central Lancashire. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Peter?
Hi, yeah, I'm Dr. Peter Oatley. I'm a lecturer on the Medical Sciences course on the University of Central Lancashire over on the Burnley campus.
Chantal?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Chantal Hammond. I'm one of the fourth year medical students here at UCLan.
Chantal, can you just say where you come from to bring it into perspective, please?
I can, yes. I'm originally from Namibia, and I grew up there and then started a BSc degree back in South Africa. Finished that in 2017 and then came over to UCLan.
Thank you. Posti?
Hi everyone, I'm Potse. I am a medical sciences student at UCLan and I'm from South Africa.
The global bit poster?
Oh yes, and I also knew about UCLan and applied to UCLan through global education. They helped me as well.
Brilliant, thank you very much. So it's all about just hearing about the courses. We have medicine and medical sciences, which there's a lot of interest. And I'd like to hand over to Colin, who will talk about medicine. And then after that, Peter will talk about medical sciences. Then we'll hear from the students and we can have a good chat. So over to you, Colin. Thank you.
Thank you, Angeline. So my first approach is to share my screen, and I hope this works. So I have a presentation about what we do in the School of Medicine at UCLan. So I wonder, is that visible, colleagues? Is that going to appear?
Yes, we can see it.
Excellent, thank you. So essentially, I'm the person named here, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we do in our courses. And essentially, we can move the slides on. The big question in everyone's mind out there, I would hope this evening, is why choose UCLan, the University of Central Lancashire? And there's a bunch of reasons here, but basically we have a global group of students based in Lancashire, and it's rather special. We are ranked very highly worldwide, and the global list suggests that we're up in the top 5 to 10% of schools for medical studies. And the other problem that you need to consider with any medical school is, are they linked? Do they have partners? And in fact, we've got a lot of partners with other institutions elsewhere on the globe. And we also have students that come from all sorts of other universities. In particular, Malaysia this year, we've been sent a large cohort of students, but we do have folks from China, from Africa, from the Middle East, and from Canada. So essentially, we have a global group, and our graduates, when they finish, and we can only speak for 2 years because we've only been graduating students for 2 years, but certainly our graduates are highly employable and they've all been given posts. So the uptake from leaving our school is excellent. We give very good support, I would hope, to our students. I know there's 2 of them present, and I hope they kind of recognize this presentation and the support, but we like to think we give them support. And we've got a very busy community. This last year, clearly it's been a little shut down by this nasty virus, but we do have a very busy community with many clubs, societies, and a great deal of sport, particularly in the Preston area. And crucially for training, we've got a lot of experts and folks who really know what they're doing in terms of teaching and coaching and encouraging you to learn more in the medical field. There's some pictures here of or a picture here of something that has just opened. So the University of Central Lancashire has invested a great deal in the infrastructure, and they've just opened this magnificent building here, which is part of an ongoing project. We've got a really excellent campus. It's very small, it's very safe, and it is rather swanky in terms of its architectural design, but it also works very well for students. So we have a big engineering innovation center, which is just to the left of this picture. And we've got some innovations that have developed in the library. And we're going to develop our Burnley campus, which is one of our 3 campuses, a little more in the next year. So there's some developments that are still ongoing, but a great deal of investment has been made to make sure students are happy. And we educate a lot of different folks. So we have courses for nurses, for midwives, social workers, paramedics, physios, the PAMs, the pharmacists, the physician associates are particularly interesting because they're now employed widely across the UK and in other countries, and they can deliver a whole lot of healthcare that certainly is becoming very popular and special. We have a dental school, we have opticians, and we just opened our vet school. So as of next year, we'll be training vets as well. And coming back to that question of why choose us, essentially we are ranked quite highly by the local newspapers and the local media, including the Guardian University Guide. And our degree is clearly accredited. So it's accredited crucially by the General Medical Council and therefore has wide recognition globally. But we work together with some royal colleges, including the College of Surgeons and my own college, the College of Pediatricians and Child Health, so that we actually train junior doctors and senior doctors, as well as the folks who are coming through medical student courses. And here you see some of our students learning a little anatomy, and it gives you an example in the pre-COVID era of how one could get together and learn some anatomy over anatomy models. We have a supportive and global environment, and I've got a few quotes here from students and some pictures. So essentially we have two students here in one of our clinical areas, taking blood pressures, learning how to take blood pressures. The idea of coaching students in medical skills starts right from the first year. And so one learns what to do, how to do it safely, and what's most effective for patients. So essentially, these students are learning and being coached. And in fact, they'll be tested in these skills from quite early on. But here's a student from India who says he welcomed the support that he got from the course. And of course, support is crucial because 85% of our students are international ones. We only take 15% of our students from the UK. If we have so many overseas students on the campus, we need to provide support of all sorts to those students, those folk who come to learn with us, and we'd like to think we do that in a reasonable way. Here's one of our senior lecturers who's teaching medical skills. She's a clinician. We also have people who are recently qualified doctors. We call them demons or demonstrators. So they are young doctors who've just qualified. They're closer in age to the students. I think most students really quite like what they learn from those guys, but essentially they teach differently to people like Christina here, who has a great deal of experience. And we have scientists, we have research active staff. There's all manner of folk who will teach you during your years in the medical school. And we've got some rather nice facilities. The crucial thing about our medical school is it's very new. So because it's recently built and recently developed, we have built it around some of the more recent innovative ways of teaching. So for instance, we've got the clinical skills lab in the bottom left here. We've also got something called Anatomage, which is in the middle. This is basically like a giant iPad, but it allows you to dissect a human being in layers. To turn it around. You can command up a different sort of human being. So you can have a little old person or a big young person. You can have a male, a female. You can have someone with tuberculosis. You can have someone who's healthy. It allows you to go and do dissection. And whereas in my day, dissection was a one-off, and once you'd cut through something, you'd lost it forever. This allows you to actually go back and redo dissection and refine things and track things in the body anatomically. And we back that up with models, and you can see the students using these here. And essentially, we do this all along the lines of what you would require to be an NHS doctor. And we have a number of different people who teach you to ensure that you really do enjoy these sessions and learn as much as you can from them. Again, another picture of one of our clinical rooms, and somebody from South Africa who's commented on the fact that they really like the facilities. And you must notice they put in there the gym. And there's a great deal of outdoor sport when the weather is dry, but certainly the gym in Preston is magnificent. It's very large, and there's a great deal of indoor activities there. Somebody from Libya has commented on the fact there's good transport links, and I'll show you a little map in a moment. But these are some pictures of the campus, again, showing how it's quite well designed for students and really an excellent place to come and learn. Campus sites. We have 3 different campuses. We have a campus in Preston and 2 others, but these are pictures from the Preston campus. There's the city, Avonham Park, and it's essentially, Chantel's quoted here. I hope you did say that, Chantel. We are not misquoting you there, but essentially, you liked Avonham Park, which is right next to the river on which Preston is built. So essentially, an interesting place, a small and safe place to learn. These are the other campuses. Burnley is up the river from Preston, and it's a really small town, but it has got a very large district general hospital in it, in which a great deal of the student teaching takes place. And it has we've got a modern teaching set of facilities there. And in West Lakes, which is in the Lake District just to the north of Preston, we have another campus too. So we have 3 campuses, and depending on what your stage and whether you wish to, you can be trained in these various different places. The undergraduate programs we offer include the Bachelor of Surgery, the Bachelor of Surgery with a foundation year, which is for international students, such as those of you folks who are listening in this evening. We do a Master's in Physicians Associates. We do a BSc Honours in Medical Sciences and a BSc in Honours with a foundation entry, again, for those who want to take a full run-up to taking that course on the campus. So just looking at the medical course, which I suspect is of interest, again, going back, crucial question, why choose UCLan? The UCLan choice is based on some useful facts, I would hope. We do a 5-year program, that's the standard course, but we also do the 6 years with this foundation student system, whereby you can actually take a year to learn and get an exam, which allows you to enter our MBBS. We are accredited, we're listed, we have another point that I didn't mention earlier on, but from quite early on in your first year, you will go out to see things happening within the NHS. You'll go to GP surgeries, perhaps the local prison or a hospice. Diverse UK NHS settings will allow you to see just how the NHS works and how medicine works in different places within the UK. And we've got a pretty innovative curriculum and quite a lot of international students, as I've told you. And we do get them all into jobs at this point, and everyone's welcoming our graduates. What do the students say? Well, again, here's some students learning to do procedures in the clinical rooms, but they think here's someone from Kenya saying that they got excited when they first started their placements. Certainly we coach you quite a lot so that you can actually figure out what's going on in the surgeries or the hospitals, but it is an exciting time, and I think students all relish this idea. And again, Chantal and Posty can comment on this later, but we do small group teaching in the main for skills, and you tend to be in very small groups when you go out into placements. And certainly there are people who struggle. Actually, it was very interesting that you mentioned that right at the beginning of this, Angelina, because essentially this person at the bottom did have some trouble with her course, and she had to retake exams. Now, that sometimes happens in medical courses, and we have to acknowledge doing a medical course is hard, but we are there to make sure that you get support, as I have said, and we are there to make sure you get the academic training to go through the exams. And Demi commented that she wouldn't have found the clarity or the courage to retake that year without somebody supporting her. And this was an email that she'd sent to a member of faculty. Now, just a quick outline of how we like to teach you. We call it a spiral curriculum. So you start on year 1 at the bottom of this tube, and you proceed upwards, and we layer it. So you learn about the heart, for instance, in the first year, but you'll learn more about it in year 2, even more in the year 3, and even more in year 4. So all the subjects we teach are layered, and we do that through a number of different parts of teaching. So those parts are shown in the stripes up on the left-hand side. EPOM stands for Evidence Informed Practice of Medicine. We like to teach you according to the best current evidence, what is important to know, what works. We do a thing called ISCM, which is Integrated Science and Clinical Medicine. So that teaches you the background towards the basic sciences on which Western medicine is based. There is a little bit of traditional medicine in there as well, but not a great deal. We are very focused on scientific-based medicine. We do MSQC, which is the skills. And so essentially how to do things starts off right from year 1, and you build on your skills right the way through to year 5. And we call year 5 the transition to clinical practice. So it's what we like to call a spiral curriculum or a layered one. And again, talk to the students on this call, because they'll tell you whether this works or not. It seems to be slightly more effective than the systems that were used once upon a time in medical schools around the UK. This shows the same idea in a slightly different way. You start on year 1, move across to year 5, and in each of those years, you do different components of your various curricula, whether it's actually science-based, evidence-based, or skills-based. And by year 5, you're transitioning to clinical practice, and that's the stage at which you really do know a great deal. Years 3, 4, and 5 are spent in a clinical setting, years 1 and 2 in Preston, which I'll explain, I think, a little bit later. So 5-year program, we are really governed in that whole process by the General Medical Council. They're very keen to make sure we train safe doctors, good doctors, knowledgeable doctors who can talk to patients. So essentially they promote excellence, they promote our standards for medical education and make sure that we follow those. And we do permit you to go on an elective period. If you want to go at the end of year 4, you can take a period to go and do anything you want. You can go and travel and do something overseas. You could stay in the UK, as some are doing this year, to actually study a specialist subject. And essentially, we like to do our teaching in lots of different ways and as small a group as possible whenever we can manage this. Now the great map. So Preston might seem in a slightly curious place and you might never have looked at it before. It's halfway up England. It's the red spot in the middle of that map. And the great advantage of Preston is that it is very close to a number of useful points of contact. Manchester is a great airport and you can fly into Manchester and be in Preston within an hour. Liverpool, similarly, slightly fewer aeroplanes. But if you wish to travel, you can go up to Edinburgh, down to London, and the train service, the road services are good. And essentially being where it is much easier to move around than it is in the sort of southern part of the UK. West Lakes, you can see up in the top left there, that's in Cumbria, and that's where our 3rd campus is based. Burnley is just a little bit to the northeast of Preston. So West Lakes is also where we have a national centre for remote and rural medicine. Now, this isn't like rural medicine in Africa. This is rural medicine a la UK, but it is actually used by the Royal College of Surgeons to train their people in remote and rural medicine and in emergency medicine too. And we can train you through that centre in immediate care, pre-hospital emergency care, and surgical skills. We can, well, we did 2 years back when there was no virus around, take the students out to Wales to have a day of Outward Bound to start their course. We're planning on doing something a little like that this next year, but unfortunately the virus is still slowing us down in developing student experiences. But there's a great deal of sport and camaraderie around work in the School of Medicine, and we really do have some amazing facilities around Preston for doing this. So the crucial bits you'll be wishing to know about are coming up now. How do you join us? You apply online via the website or via UCAS. Those are some students learning how to put in a blood transfusion. The entry, we require an A-level equivalent of AAB or 136 UCAS points. We like to take some board exams. So for instance, we will take Indian board exams. We will consider other exams, and Angelina is a great expert on this, so she will advise on exam entries later. We require a certain standard of English. We use a personal statement, transferable skills statement, and we do a panel interview. We do not do UCAT and BMAT at present. If you take the extra year to get into our 5-year course, this is for international students such as yourselves. It's a 6-year program. Again, the same sort of entrance, and the IELTS is the English language standard of 7. And we like to, well, we will be performing interviews and MMIs to get students through into the foundation year. That's quite a competitive problem, but essentially that's how we arrange things at present. Look on this website if you want to find out more about the university and more about our courses. And that's the end of my presentation. So thank you very much for listening. And I'll pass you on to my colleague, Peter, who can give you something slightly more specific and fine-grained.
Okay. Thank you, Colin. I'll just share my screen now. Okay. There we go. Hopefully you can see that.
Yes, we can, Colin.
Okay.
Sorry, Peter.
Peter, yeah, no worries, Angeline. Yes, so at the University of Central Lancashire, we have 2 medical sciences courses. So the first of which is the Foundation in Medical Sciences, which is usually for students who either don't have a scientific background to start on a medicine course or dentistry course, something that's medically related, or they haven't quite got the qualifications needed to get onto that course. So it's kind of a second chance to get this qualification, this Foundation in Medical Sciences, to then use that as an access into those medically related courses such as medicine, dentistry, and the physician associate course. And then secondly, we've got the Bachelor of Science, so the BSc in Medical Sciences, that's based at Burnley. So this is a 2-year accelerated course that we hold at Burnley. And again, students are using this to gain access to have graduate level entry onto medicine courses and dentistry courses. Plus also, because it's a fully fledged Bachelor of Science degree, you can actually use this course to go on to do a whole host of different things too. So I'll start off first of all, if I can get the slide moving on, so with the foundation course that we have. And it's a one-year course. And I'm going to go through the entry requirements here. So it's a course that's designed to give you all the background information that you'll need to go on to study medicine or dentistry. So for the entry requirements, you require 80 UCAS points. So these UCAS points can be in any background. We're not looking at just science here. We want to try and diversify the amount of students that or the different types of students that can access these medicine courses. And with more kind of South African qualifications here with the senior certificate, so you need 5 Cs, or the national senior certificate, you'll need 5 5s or above 50%. And then for the English language qualifications required for the foundation in medical sciences, so you'll need an IELTS qualification of 6 with no component lower than 5.5, or if you're wishing to go directly onto medical sciences or onto medicine, the Mbbs course, you'll need no component lower than 7. Okay, so on this foundation in medical sciences, throughout the whole year of that foundation course, we support the students in their personal development. We, as for English language, we have several modules that are associated with kind of building up your English language skills, particularly in the background of medicine. And then also we have modules that will improve your presentation skills, getting you ready for these MMIs that are required for the medicine interviews, and also improve your writing skills and medical writing. Also will aid you with UCAS application and also interview techniques. So they have practice MMI interviews, and we do that and integrate that as part of the course. And then also we discuss other progression and possible progression from the foundation into various different courses. For semester 1, so this is before Christmas, you'll be studying biological and chemical systems. So the main, what the chemical reactions are going on in the cells and in the body that keep the body ticking and the cells alive. So this is the basic biology. And then also alongside this in semester 1, you'll be looking at scientific communication. So how to describe scientific knowledge to a wide variety of different audiences. So you'll be practicing your presentation skills there. And also we'll be looking at investigative skills using maths. So having a mathematics background is also important to becoming a successful medical scientist. So in January, then you do some assessment that will go on to decide whether you qualify for interview stages on the medicine courses if you've applied for Mbbs at UCLan. And then in semester 2, you continue on into body systems. So it's studying anatomy and how the body works and looking at the physiology of the body. And then also alongside this, you'll be looking at specific case-based studies. So this is usually done in small tutorial groups where you'll be working with other students and clinical members of staff to help you through those, understand those case studies, those medical case studies. So as for teaching, there's lectures and workshops and these small tutorials that, and also we can organize one-to-one sessions and small group support if you need that extra help and understanding. And as for assessments, it's largely based on exams, so multiple choice questions exams. And also there are coursework elements and end of topic mini tests to kind of help support your learning. So when it comes to progression on from the foundation, you first of all need to apply to these courses. So whether it's the physician associate course, the MBBS course, or the pharmacy course, or the dentistry, and you'll need to have a competitive application and then pass a competitive interview. And if you do that and you also gain these scores on the foundation, so over 70% to gain entry into MBBS, and then over 65% for these other courses, you can then possibly progress in. But again, this requires a very competitive interview and application process that will also support you with. And if you continue on the medical sciences, you can automatically progress if you pass the foundation with 40% onto a 2-year accelerated medical sciences degree. Okay, so I'm getting on to that now. So this is the 2-year accelerated medical sciences degree. So instead of a 3-year Bachelor of Sciences course, this is the teaching on this has been condensed down into just 2 years. And this is achieved by adding an extra semester that extends into the summer months. So you can complete the whole course just in 2 years. So the entry requirements for this, so you do require a science background, so science subjects and 120 UCAS points. And for South Africa, this would kind of equivalent to the senior certificate with 5 Bs, or the national senior certificate with at least 70%. So also, yeah, there's other application processes you could go through, the qualifications you could get. So with the independent examining board from a private school, we would expect grades ranging in B. And for the English language, to get onto the 2-year accelerated medical sciences course directly, for IELTS, you'll need a 6 with no component lower than 5. But again, if you're looking to progress onto the medicine course, the MBBS, you will still need to have an IELTS 7 with no component lower than 7. But you can, there is, because this is a 2-year course, there is a chance that you can actually improve that score while you're studying at the University of Central Lancashire. Okay, so on the course with the teaching, so in the first year, we'll support you in your academic writing. There'll be laboratory work, and we'll help to boost up your clinical skills. So there's a practical element to this course. And also we'll be helping to develop your online professional presence. In semester 1, we start off with the basics, so integrated medical sciences, that teaches you the background biochemistry and cell biology. In semester 2, we move on to anatomy and physiology, and also couple this with medical microbiology, so looking at infections. And then in semester 3 of the first year, we'll be looking at immunology, the body responds to infection and looking at inflammation. And also we're looking at clinical communications. So this is the practical element where you get to use our clinical labs that we have at Burnley to develop your communication skills and also diagnostics and first aid skills. So in the second year, you move on to this continued development of your academic profile. Also, there'll be help with UCAS applications that you'll be performing there at the beginning of the second year. And also we'll be practicing interview technique and these MMI examples. And also we'll be talking about progression onto other courses or into a career. So with semester one, you'll be starting off with more anatomy and physiology. You'll be studying also research in medical sciences, so looking at population studies associated with medical backgrounds. And also we're looking at semester two, where you move on to looking at molecular medicine. So it's looking at the basis of disease, so how cancers form, the genetic mutations involved in those. Also, you'll be looking at neuroscience too. And in semester three, then this goes on to a final research project that you get to personalize and design into kind of several sets of coursework. And also you'll be looking at medical pharmacology and therapeutics, so looking at drugs and how they have action on the body. So for learning methods on the medical sciences course, we've got lectures and tutorials. We'll have practical lab sessions. So we've got a fully functional lab here at the Burnley campus. And also we have a fully fledged anatomy class too. So you'll be using that for anatomy practicals. And also we've got this clinical skills suite at Burnley that is currently being used by the medical sciences, plus also in the later stages of some of the MBBS courses. And the assessment, so for year one, we have exams and several items of coursework, whether that's presenting or written. And then also you'll have practical skills, so looking at anatomy spotter test, and we'll be looking at your clinical skills that you've picked up during year one. And also into year two, again, it'll be based largely on exams. There'll be coursework, which will be based around essays, and also the research projects that you've designed, and also kind of a final lab project too. So at Burnley, we've got this clinical suite. You've seen this picture before in Colin's slides too. So this is at Burnley campus itself. It's got quite characteristic walls, and it's an old converted mill. And then some of our teaching staff there, and then the students with the anatomical models. And then we've got our anatomy suite, again, complete at Burnley with this Anatomage table that's fully interactive for you to use there, and strip back the layers of a virtual cadaver. And then also we've got this fully functional biochemistry lab ready for you to use. And this is our first year students in a DNA experiment. Okay, so for progression from the medical sciences, you can go on to postgraduate education. So whether that's a medicine degree or a dentistry degree or physician associate, you can sometimes get graduate level entry onto those courses. Because this is a full BSc in medical sciences, you can go on to do research, so working at research institutes or at universities. You can perhaps also go into a hospital setting or some sort of clinical research. Also, you can work in industry, so there's a large amount of different options here that you go into where medical sciences would be applicable. And there are alternatives too. So with the BSc, you could go on to a teaching training course and take your degree into teaching in the sciences. And then also, because it's a BSc, you can go on to other alternatives such as the civil service or working in finance and marketing. Okay, so that concludes my medical sciences talk. I'll pass you on back to Angeline.
Thanks very much, Peter and Colin. That was really interesting. Now, I said we were going to go to the students, but there's some technical things there that if I don't ask now, I might forget the terms. So just one thing I'd like to explain is the difference between the 6-year medicine and the 5-year medicine. Now, as Colin said, if you do the 5-year medicine, that's our regular, you've got an AAB and you get into the 5-year medical program. Now, if you've gone through the interviews, so all you're waiting for is your results. And at the end, you get an ABB. So you narrowly miss your entry requirements. We will automatically offer you medicine with foundation. So then you have the 6-year medicine program. So that's how that works. If you don't get that and you get perhaps, lower than you are expecting, then we would recommend you do the Medical Sciences Foundation, which Peter has very clearly explained. And I hope you have seen how you can go from the medical sciences route, have another go at it, and eventually come back to medical science, to medicine. So that is the relation, and that's really important to know. And it would be interesting when we speak to Posty, perhaps ask her, why did she want to do medical sciences, and see how that falls into place. The other question I've had, which is for you, Colin, and I don't know the answer, is, do we offer courses in clinical trials? Now, I don't know what that means medically, but would you know?
We do. Well, there's several different ways you can do that. Medical students can do it as part of their 4th year, because it can be, we have a specialist in trials who does a thing called Cochrane trials, and he is very keen to involve medical students. So they can come and do that as part of an elective in the 4th year. There is also a specific master's degree in medical education, which might involve trials. I'm not quite sure how trials are being seen. And there is, of course, the pharmacy degree. And there's a set of pharmacy degrees which allow you to learn about trials and participate in trials. Most trial degrees are postgraduate ones. So people do a basic degree and then they do trial degrees afterwards. So we certainly do offer postgraduate training in trials, but in general, it'd be important to know the details, because essentially these are all add-ons and are done for postgraduate reasons.
Brilliant. Thank you there, Colin. Now, there's another thing I wanted to clarify, and that is when Peter talked about the medical sciences, they do prepare you for interviews. Now, the reason for that is if you're on our medical sciences program, whether you're doing the foundation or the actual medical sciences program, if you want to go on to medicine, we guarantee you an interview. It doesn't guarantee you a place on medicine, so please bear that in mind, but we guarantee you an interview, and you get a chance to get help and support in the interview skills. So that does give the student an advantage. So when we say it's an alternative route or a second chance to medicine, you can see how you can get that chance, and you get that practice that maybe other people who are applying for the first time will not have. Okay. Nico, do you have any urgent medical or medical science questions before we go on to the students, before we forget the terms? I think we've covered, those are the ones I had noted.
No, you've covered everything. There's nothing else that's come through here.
Okay.
I think we can continue, and then we can get to the Q&A section at the end.
Brilliant. Okay, so now I'd like Chantel to just talk to us briefly, Chantel, just about your background, why you came to UCLan, why you chose medicine at UCLan, how you're finding it, and what you hope to do. And that will possibly give people a chance to ask you questions. So over to you, Chantel.
All right, that sounds good, Angie. Thank you. So like I said, my name is Chantel Hamman, and I grew up in Namibia. I then moved on to do a BSc degree in South Africa for 3 years, and I majored in anatomy and physiology. And halfway through, I realized that I didn't want to go into that route anymore, and I wanted more patient contact. So I decided on studying medicine, because I thought it was the perfect combination between humanity and science, and I loved working with people. So I found out about UCLan actually from one of the current students who went to school with me. So I knew some people, which was quite nice, quite wonderful. And I loved the fact that UCLan had a small cohort of students per group, and it meant that we could do lots of small group sessions, like Dr. Mitchie said. Lots of those small anatomy workshops were very useful, as well as the communication skills workshops, which started in year 1. I also loved the fact that we started placements in first year. And then as we progress, we get more placement days a week, which is really wonderful. And we get lots of patient contact. For now, I'm really enjoying the course. I feel very well supported, and I like the fact that it's a spiral curriculum, because it means that every year we go back to certain aspects and certain concepts and just cement them again, which has really helped my learning. Moving on from here, I think I'm going to do my foundation years in the UK, the first and second one, and then reassess after that. Maybe in the long term, I'll go back to Namibia, but I haven't decided yet.
Thank you, Chantel. That's wonderful. Now over to you, Poste. If you can tell us a bit about your journey to UCLan and why you chose medical sciences and what you hope to go on from here.
Okay, hi everyone. Like I said before, I'm from South Africa, and like I said before, I also came to UCLan through global education as well. So understanding the academic demand of medical school and the commitment it takes to obtain excellent results to become a doctor, which is what I hope to become in the future. I applied to medical sciences specifically as it presented itself to be a very helpful, course in getting a great foundation for Mbbs, which is what I'm hoping to apply to next year. And what also stood out for me was how UCLan delivers this course, a complete degree in only 2 years, which does save you time and money. During my first year, with the help of some guest speakers and our lecturers, like Peter said before, I learned that the course itself does provide many opportunities to do other things, whether you plan on studying further or going into research or to work. I've spoken to quite a few people in my year, and they are planning to do completely different things, various things. Yeah. So I'm in my second year now, or last year. And so far it has been quite challenging, to be honest, as it is medical school and this is an accelerated course. However, I've learned that the best way to go about this type of situation is to always try and stay on top of your work, engage with the material, and try your best not to procrastinate. And I'm sure you'll be fine. And UCLan is known for making student well-being a priority. So if you do find yourself in a situation or you're struggling a little bit, there is guaranteed support from the uni. Yeah. So overall, coming to UCLan and doing the medical sciences course was honestly a great decision on my behalf, from the advanced facilities to the diverse student population. I don't regret my decision at all. It is a great opportunity to gain a unique pathway and experience to the medical world. So I know coming to all the way to the UK for uni can seem quite intimidating and daunting at times. So let me know if you have any questions or anything you'd like to ask me about my experience. I'm happy to help. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Poste. And to the students listening today, both Poste and Chantel are our student ambassadors, and we have a chat feature on the UCLan website where you can talk to a current student and you can ask them questions. It doesn't have to be just about your course. So you've known their names now. So if you go on our website, and we will send that through, actually, Poste, maybe after you can post it on the chat, the Ask a Student link, so that they can find you guys and ask questions about student life. Maybe they don't want to ask about, that other side of things today, but they can talk to you about it and just know more about Preston and how life is. So with that, we can now go to the general Q&A. Nico, do you want to lead that and see if there's anything that needs answering and that we haven't covered, please?
Sure, perfect. I'm just going to share my screen quickly, just so everyone or all the students that are on can see the just contact information for us if they want to ask any questions. I'm going to direct a couple of questions that we have in the office that have been, and obviously questions that have come through over the last couple of webinars. But before I get to that, I just want to ask Poste, basically, what was your experience using Global, just for students who are obviously thinking about it? What did you make of the, the general consultation and walking through the processes of applying to UCLan and getting your visa and all of that? Could you maybe summarize that for us?
Sure, I can do that. So basically, when I was in matric, which is your last year of high school in South Africa, I decided that, I really do want to, go overseas and study. And I chose the UK. And then when I chose, I realized there are so many medical schools in the UK. Like in South Africa, we only have, I think, 4 or maybe 5 medical schools, but in the UK, there's so many. So, doing your research, it's such a wide range, and especially going overseas and stuff, it really is nice to have somebody that's there to guide you. Because I think in global education, with my experience, I had one person that really did help me through the whole experience from the beginning and till the end, literally until I came to Preston. I had help from them, from the applications in matric to the visa process the following year. I really did have guidance, and I am really grateful for that. So that's basically it.
Awesome, thank you so much. Whilst we wait for a few more questions to come through, because I think everyone's a bit still either processing all the information or a bit shy to ask questions. One of the other ones that have come through, and maybe we can, Angeline, you can give a perspective from your side, maybe Colin and Peter can give a perspective from the lecturer side, and then maybe the students can also give a perspective from their side. Obviously, dealing with COVID, it's thrown a spanner in the works with the way that the studies have sort of been carried out, with the student experience on campus. So what the question that's been asked the whole way through in this webinar series is, how has the university dealt with COVID? How do you plan on dealing with it for the next intake? And in terms of a student and lecturer experience, what has been different to what would normally be the case on campus? So what's been different from a student's perspective, and what's been different from a lecturing perspective? If maybe you guys would be okay with answering that. I know I've thrown quite a lot of questions out there, but I think that's something that a lot of parents are very interested in knowing at the moment. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so everyone can see you when you talk.
Thanks, Nico. That's brilliant. Well, I'll give the general perspective from the plans, what we have done, and then I think it's a brilliant opportunity for Colin and Peter to give their perspectives as lecturers, and then for the students, because they're the ones who, at the end of the day, the most important people to tell us how they have felt. Now, when COVID, when we had to go to online learning, talking March 2020. Everybody was in shock. Now, what was clear was that the medical teams were required. And so at UCLan, the nurses, the doctors, they were all on the front line. And you can imagine how scary it was, because these were courses that needed that face-to-face. They needed to be out in the hospitals. Our nurses and the doctors were still going into hospitals, and yet there was a pandemic. So with government guidelines, the university very quickly adapted to online teaching. But what was most important at that point was communication, because not only did we have the staff and students to look after, but then you can imagine the parents overseas worrying about their children who are studying abroad. And so what we decided to do was, on the website, immediately put what the university was doing, because you may not be able to get hold of your child, but you can see what is happening at the university. So, things like social distancing. And at that point, only those who really had to be on campus were there. But these guys were going into hospitals. So I suppose they can tell us their experiences from that part. So in terms of the online learning and online teaching, these guys, Colin and Peter would comment on. But from a staff perspective and well-being care for us from the international team, that was really important. And so working with student services, making sure that all our students were looked after, because though UK students could go home to their families, international students couldn't travel. So things like we were delivering food to their accommodation. If somebody had not contacted others, we were checking in on them and asking them to, sending somebody to go and check to make sure they were fine. As things eased and people became more sort of used to the working with COVID, the social distancing were in place. The sign that was never out there was the mental health effects on both staff and students. And as Posty said, we have outstanding support, not just for the students, but for the staff as well. So mental health and that side of things became really important, and still is today, because even now that we are back to face-to-face teaching for majority of the university, some staff members are not comfortable going back on campus. So we have a process for that. And the same applies to students. So there is support, and that is the only way forward, because this thing is changing all the time. The goalpost, every time you think you've got it, a new variant has come, or there are new rules. So there is great communication and there is support. And that is how we are dealing with the pandemic. So perhaps, Colin, you can talk about it from your teaching perspective, please.
Yes, I'd love to. This is, how long have we got question, but the crucial points I think you've managed to nail down very effectively, Angeline. Thank you. Essentially, after the COVID problem started, we were asked by the GMC to get our finalists out as quickly as possible. So we graduated our doctors early last year, and they all went out in May to help with the hospital issues that were caused by COVID. So that was one thing that happened very quickly. Our finalists got out early. They got a get out of jail free card, and off they went to do some work. A lot of our students also contributed towards vaccination and testing centers around the Northwest. So a number of them engaged with voluntary activities to try and help with those, and they were encouraged to do so. And I know they enjoyed that. And broadly, nothing changed in terms of teaching. So we're sort of proud that we managed to deliver all the teaching and continue to do so. And indeed, now this year, we're back to normal with normal face-to-face teaching. However, that's to skip over all the important things that Angeline has mentioned. Putting everyone in their rooms and teaching them online might seem sort of cool to start with for a month, but after that, it stops being cool and it stops working too well. And exactly the issue she mentioned, mental health became a growing problem amongst all our students and staff. And essentially that showed in the results. So we've had a lot of mitigating circumstances. We've changed a lot of the academic requirements. We had a problem, for instance, we couldn't set proper final exams last year because they required too much IT and we couldn't command all of that at once. So we did other systems for doing things. We actually developed an online Osce, which is an online observed clinical examination. So we got students to demonstrate online what we had taught them with a video camera. But essentially, those are fun, frilly things. In the main, our students didn't do awfully well last year, and we had to put in lots of support, and we're busy supporting them through this next year to make up for it. So we're now back to normal teaching. We will keep on going, and we have been monitored through all of this by people like the GMC, by the university. We've got great support for it, and the outcome has been the General Medical Council has asked us this year to take extra students from all the other medical schools around and about us, from Lancaster and from Manchester. So they consider that we did rather well last year in coping with the virus. But from inside, I must admit, it did hit us an awful lot harder than we expected. And there was a lot of chaos, and problems with travel were phenomenal. Trying to travel with so many international students, trying to cross borders and so on in the face of all these restrictions has been a major issue. But we're not through it yet. And to be frank, I think we are never going to be quite the same again as medical schools in the UK. But we will be better because we've learned what we really need to teach and what we don't really need to teach. And we have abandoned certain things to good effect. And I think we should come out of this better, but perhaps the ripples will perpetuate until 2023.
Thanks, Colin. How about you, Peter?
Yes, well, as Colin mentioned, we've largely gone back to face-to-face teaching now. but we are taking some of the technology that we've used during lockdown and what's been of interest to the students and kind of still applying that as well as the face-to-face teaching too. So with some of these lab simulations that we used during the main lockdown where students weren't able to get into our wet labs at Burnley, we had these replacement virtual labs that they could go on to, and also kind of interactive labs that they could use, and they really enjoyed those. And I've tried now to apply those into the teaching that we're doing at the moment, even though we're to kind of support the wet lab work too. And I think the students are really enjoying that. But during lockdown, I suppose we did go on to Microsoft Teams. So we're doing lots of video lecturing. And then as slowly as things got better, we started to go back onto campus to do more face-to-face teaching, usually with lower numbers of students. So we were able to put in social distancing, limit the number of people in those rooms, and wearing masks as we walked around. So that's a kind of we had a step process of going back onto campus and opening up the teaching, because what we found is that the students work best in a face-to-face really, and having that contact. And we try and make that, you know, a priority to try and get that open as soon as possible. And it's good to be back on campus and teaching again, and getting the direct feedback from the students as you're lecturing, and then you can know quite if the students aren't quite getting it, and then you can change your tact and then describe something in a different way.
Brilliant, thank you. I see Posty and Chantal smiling. Chantal, can you tell us how it was for you, you know, the whole COVID and learning, because that's really good to know.
Yes, definitely. I guess I can say a little bit about how it was for me in second, third, and fourth year now, because it's spread across such a long time. So I was at the end of my second year when COVID struck in March 2020. So I was lucky enough to make it home to Namibia. So it felt a bit strange doing my UK second year medical exams from my living room back home. But the university was very vocal about what they wanted from us as students, and they put together quite a lot of support. There was never a time where I felt that they went silent, so I knew exactly what was happening and how to deal with the online examinations. Then coming back in third year, I think it was quite strange and quite difficult, I'd say, to start clinical years in the pandemic. We were lucky enough to still go into hospital for 2 days a week, as well as to our GP practice placements once a week. And we had the rest of our teaching on Microsoft Teams. And as that comes with its glitches, it was still done really well, I feel, and as well as we could have, with all the technological issues that can sometimes happen. But I feel like everyone engaged a lot. But as Dr. Collins said earlier, it does get to a point where you start missing that interaction with your peers and with your lecturers. And now in fourth year, I've already realized, going back to campus, how much more I feel like I'm learning and absorbing properly. And I don't know if that's just me. But it was interesting being on placement last year, I'd say, in third year, because we got exposed to how the staff have to deal with COVID. We got exposed to ourselves having to wear full PPE while taking histories from patients on the wards and that. So I think I feel very lucky in a way that I was exposed to something like that in my first clinical year. And yeah, I hope that from here on out we can continue to learn from it, and hopefully it will make us better doctors in the future.
Brilliant. Certainly, I don't think many doctors, you know, in sort of earlier years have experienced anything like you guys in your training. So that definitely puts you in a special place. How about you, Posty? Because you got a slightly different course from Chantal's, but, you know, that was the beginning of your second year when it started. No, your first year. Oh, gosh. All right, tell us.
Yeah, so yes, basically, it was the beginning. So September 2020 was when my course when my course started. So obviously in December is when the December before is when South African schools, that's the end of our high school experience kind of. And then in January we get our results. So, you know, in January, February, I was just hoping to go to the UK, and then in March, obviously, the pandemic happened, and it was really a scary experience at first, because I was like, oh no, I was really stressed. I was like, can I still go? Can I not go? I'll have to go alone now, because my parents were planning on coming. It seemed really intimidating at first, but I was really surprised, because literally you just go onto the UCLan website, and literally almost, I think it was every 2 weeks or every week or so, there's this page called FAQs, and it would be updated all the time. UCLan trying to help you and tell you everything that's going on, how everything's going to work. I am one of those people who really do stress out about things and like to plan things out. So I would always call the admissions office and be like, okay guys, what's happening? What's happening here? And they were really nice enough to help me all the time, every single time I answered. And also with the help of Global Education as well. You know, they eased my mind, and UCLan together, they just eased my mind, and I was ready in September to move to the UK all by myself. It did seem quite intimidating at first, I won't lie, but at the end, I am really glad that I went and I just went with my gut. I would advise people, or I would say, because last year I think what helped me the most is being in student accommodation, I think, and number two, joining societies and connecting with other people like that. I think that those two are great opportunities to still be around people, maybe similar interests or not, but they're still students at the end of the day. That really, really did help me. And also, like I said before, when I was introducing myself, the student well-being at UCLan is honestly exceptional. Like Chantal said, Angeline said, Dr. Peter, all of them. It is true, I can attest. And yeah, it was actually really, it was okay. It was obviously not how I planned my first year to be, obviously, but UCLan tried their best. And I would say, for our circumstances and looking at our circumstances, I enjoyed my first year. So yeah, that's all I can say.
Thank you, Posty. Over to you, Nico. I hope that answered your question. You're on mute. We can't hear that wonderful statement.
I'm muted. Sorry. I was saying that was brilliant. I got a perspective from everybody, from the lecturers, from the university itself, from students. So it's I think for parents who get to watch this later, they'll have a good answer from everyone, a holistic answer from the university and the students. We've got a very keen student in the chat who's said that he's ready to apply, and he's applied before. So Kagelo, I'm looking forward to receiving your application. There hasn't been too many questions here. I think you guys have covered a lot. One last question, which I have to ask because I know for anyone who hasn't participated, it will come up. What kind of funding opportunities are available for students? I know we touched on it in the chat, but just for parents who won't have access to it, just if we could elaborate a little bit on that, and then I'll let you all get back to your evening and let you go. Okay, I'll take that. So for medicine, MBBS, we do not have any scholarships. And that's not because we are mean. It is a really competitive course. And as you have heard, there's patient contact from year one. Those placements have to be funded somehow. So we do not offer any scholarships at the moment. Who knows what will happen in the future? I can also tell you the tuition fees for September next year has already been confirmed. So this year it was 44,500. And for next year, it's going to be 46,000 per year for medicine. For medical sciences, we do offer scholarships for our students. And UCLan has got a very generous scholarship scheme.
So for next year, this is the 2-year medical, well, I'll start with the foundation program. So we've got the foundation, which has, I think is it 11,000, Leah, for the foundation, 11,900 for the foundation year. And then for next year, if you're doing the 2-year accelerated course that Post is doing, it's going to be 21,600. The way scholarships work at UCLan, you don't need to apply for them. It's based on academic merit. And this is, apart from medicine, for all our other programs, whether it's engineering or, you know, business or whatever. So you apply, we look at your grades. All international students will get £1,000 international bursary. So whatever your tuition fee is, and that's on the website, on each course page, you will see the tuition fees. You will get £1,000 automatic international bursary, okay? And then we look at your grades. So if you've got an A profile grade, so, you know, whether it's AAA or AAB, there's more A's than B's basically. A profile, you get an excellence scholarship, and that's automatic, and that's £3,000. So you get 1,000 for international bursary plus £3,000. So that's £4,000, and that is per year of study, okay? If you happen to have a sibling or your parents studied at UCLan, or you've got a spouse studying at UCLan, you get an additional family discount of £1,000. So that's why we say you can get up to £5,000 per year because of those aspects. So either excellence or merit scholarship of 2,000 if you've got a B profile, and then you've got the international bursary and sibling. Colin, you've got a question.
No, I was not so much a question as a go on. First of all, thank you for that. That's very clear. Secondly, if anybody knows of an oil well or a diamond mine going spare, we will be able to generate scholarships throughout the medical school. Just at this point, we're kind of young, as I expressed, and therefore we don't have a lot of scholarship monies around for MBBS. I'm working on it. It's one of my jobs. So essentially, I'm hoping that will develop. But I just wanted to draw attention to the word that Nico used and that you've just used, Angeline, and that is parents. Parents are very powerful forces behind applications to medical school. They really want to know what's going to happen to their child at medical school and who's going to be teaching them, looking after them, and what all this money is going on. So I spend a lot of time, and it's very important never to be shy about this. There's a group of us spend a lot of time speaking to parents to make sure they know what's happening, that they are reassured, and we will be working on the money. So that's why I had my hand up. But thank you very much, Angeline.
Brilliant. Well, Colin is the deputy head of school. So if he says there'll be scholarships, we'll come back and ask him for that. So thank you. Nico, over to you. I think that's it from our side. Or have I left anything out, Leah, before we hand back over to Nico? Is there anything that I have missed out?
Not really. Just to thank you all for attending this. It's very important to have this information session for you to be clear on what you need to know. And I'm here to support Nico and the team. In case you have any burning questions and anything, I'm on the ground. I'm based in Nairobi, Kenya, but I do my rounds. I come down to South Africa and any other of the South Africa countries and also the East Africa countries. So I'm on the ground to assist as much as we can to make sure that your journey to UCLan is successful. Thank you.
Thanks, Leah. Over to you, Nico.
Thanks so much, Angeline. Thank you, team. I think this has been an awesome webinar. It's nice to have not just the university representative, but to have some professors on as well as students and obviously one of our own students to give their own perspective. I think has been great. I just want to thank you so much for participating in the webinar series. I know it's going to go out to all the parents and schools that do subscribe to our newsletter. So if you do get questions after this, that's why. So Angeline, thank you so much. Leah, it was nice to meet you and to have you a part of this. Dr. Michi, Dr. Oatley, thank you so much for participating. And Chantal and Osce, good luck with the rest of your studies, and please stay in touch with us. And again, if there's any questions for any of the attendees, please feel free to get in touch with us. But thank you so much for being part of this webinar series, and hopefully the next one we'll see you all in person.
I know. Thank you, Nico. And yeah, thank you, team. Nico, this was the best so far, hasn't it, really? Just be honest.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Right. Right answer. Right. Bye, everybody. Take care. Have a nice evening. Good night.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye.